Hey guys, Brent here, and this is going to be a video response to Galactic Gods Upstart Goblin Reckless Greed video. I recorded this before, but it was really long, so I'm going to have to just give you the the condensed version. Upstart is at 3, Reckless is at 3, and here's some other cards that are like them. Basically, I feel the two most balanced cards in the spells is Pot of Duality and Pot of Duplicity, and the two most the most balanced traps that are generic. Sorry, I forgot to add generic, are Jar of Greed and Legacy of Yada. And it's kind of funny because they're reverse effects of what the other two cards are. So, Upstart lets you draw a card, gives you 1,000 life points. Jar of Greed lets you draw a card, that's it. And so does Yada. The other cards that are similar to Upstart Goblin are One Day of Peace, Drag Down, Dark World Dealings, and Pot of Duality. Pot of Duality gives your opponent a lot of information, and you can't special summon, so that's pretty good. That's fine. Dark World Dealings, out of the context of Dark World decks, and the same goes for Drag Down. Both players are going to draw a card, and both players are going to basically reap the rewards of these cards. In Dark Worlds, these are really powerful, but without them, Dark Worlds is pretty much a dead deck. So I could see how they don't want to limit them to one. I think Drag Down should be limited. Dark World Dealings is basically the same thing as One Day of Peace, except it doesn't protect you. So I think Dark Worlds is fine at 3. Drag Down should at least be limited to 1, but out of the context of Dark Worlds. In Dark Worlds, they kind of need these cards because they would be a dead deck without them, I feel. And then One Day of Peace. This is what I don't understand. One Day of Peace and Upstart Goblin do the same thing essentially, but One Day is limited to 1. Upstart draws you a card and gives your opponent 1,000 life points. One Day of Peace draws both people a card and protects both players. The only reason I could feel that this card is limited to 1 is because of Exodia decks and burn decks. You don't care if your opponent's not going to get hurt for a turn because you're probably going to play 3 of these in a row. You know, you're just going to draw. Okay, so you drew 3 cards. Now you play Duality. Now you dig 3 cards deeper. Now you play Card. Now you dig 2 cards deeper. So you're probably just gonna play it in some kind of Exodia variant or something. And that is the only reason I could see that being limited to 1, because it is far more balanced than Upstart. So yeah, I think Upstart is probably the balance of the two, but yeah, it's still pretty powerful. So maybe limit it to 2. I'm fine with it at 3 just because you give your opponent 1,000 life points. But there are alternatives that exist that I could see it going to 1 maybe. But I don't feel like it needs to be going to 1. Yeah, you're gonna dig, but there's a lot of other cards that let you dig too. Now I feel Reckless Greed should be limited to 1 though. The only reason is the combo that you get 2 Reckless Greeds on the field. Your opponent didn't hit any of them, which happens more often than you think. You activate both of them, and you draw 4 cards. 4 cards for 2 is a +2, and that is not okay, especially because it's generic. Every other trap or every other spell that lets you draw 2 cards has some kind of balancing mechanic to it, or is it archetype specific, or attribute specific, or something like that. And all the other ones that are generic are banned. So yeah. Basically, every other trap that does that is balanced as hell, or has some kind of crazy stipulation. Accumulated Fortune, I think, is a good replacement for it. Yeah, you have to chain 4, but I chain 4 a lot, especially because you don't have to chain by yourself. So let's say you activate Mystical, and your opponent activates something in response. Then you activate something else, activate Accumulated Fortune, draw 2 cards. That's not too unrealistic of a scenario to happen, and it makes me laugh when I go, man, I wish I'm playing Accumulated Fortune right now, because I could have just drawn 2 cards. So yeah, it's a little bit probably not going to happen as much as Reckless Greed, but it's a lot more balanced. Heroic Gift is probably better suited for something like an Exodia deck, where you don't care if your opponent has full life because you're going to draw 2 cards anyway, but it's very balanced, because who wants to have to kill their opponent twice essentially. Psychic Overload, it's kind of like Pot of Avarice, but it's for psychics. But you draw 2 cards. Yeah, 2 cards. But it's not generic. Supercharge, not generic. You draw 2 cards. Dark Spirit Art Greed isn't generic, and you draw 2 cards. Common Charity isn't generic, and you draw 2 cards. So like, if you take Reckless Greed out of the picture, you have a lot of options. There's probably more than this actually, but these were just the best examples of drawing two cards that were available, I guess, right off the bat, just to pick them out real quick. There's other cards, Good Goblin Housekeeping. It's a little slower, but it basically does the same thing. So I mean, there are options. I just feel that drawing 4 cards off of 2 cards, and that with not so bad of a negative repercussion is too powerful. This card netted you like 5 or 6 cards, but it wasn't even guaranteed. So how could something that's guaranteed be even legal at all? Essentially, I feel like maybe Reckless should even be banned, but I think limited to 1 is probably fair, just because you're gonna draw 2 cards and then you can't draw for 2 turns. So yeah, there's a lot of other options. I think Upstart could be limited to 1, but I don't feel like it really needs to be. But Upstart, I feel, yeah, even though it's a trap, you're drawing 4 cards for free. And then just wanted to point out this card. Treasure Map seems really good. I don't know why nobody's broken this card yet. Maybe there just isn't good enough bounce cards that exist. But basically, you can only activate this card in response to the activation of an effect that would return this card from the field to your hand, draw 2 cards from your deck, and discard 1 card from your hand. So that seems pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems really powerful. I don't know. Maybe our bounce cards just aren't good enough for this, but yeah, I feel like somebody should break this, maybe, or find a way to break it, and then get it banned. No, I just think it's a really good card, and so yeah. So my opinion basically is, Upstart can be limited to 1, but I don't feel that it needs to be, and Reckless Greed should be limited to 1 or maybe even banned. And in the perfect world, these other cards probably couldn't be limited, or could be unlimited or limited to 1 if Exodia and Burn didn't exist, but they do. So unfortunately, we have to deal with that. But yeah, that's my opinion. You don't have to agree with it, but I would like to know your guys' opinion in the comment section. So let me know if you agree with me. Do you agree that Upstart could be limited to 1, but doesn't need to be because of other cards that exist that pretty much do the same thing, or like Jar Greed and Yada, or Duality? Or do you think that Reckless Greed should not be limited to 1, or if it should, or if it should be banned? And yeah, hit the like and subscribe button to see when I put any videos, and thanks for watching.